our views of public vulnerability, our views of football players and the expectations, what makes up for, or how do we define emotional toughness, mental toughness, fortitude? A lot of us maybe have antiquated views of really what that means. I'm talking about Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams on Saturday, USC loses to Utah, and Caleb Williams, loses to Washington. I stand corrected. USC loses to Washington.
Although
Caleb Williams
they did lose to Utah, though.
They also lost to Utah.
Yes.
But this is their third loss. They lost to Notre Dame. They lost to Utah. They lost to Washington. And here we are. Here's a scene. Caleb Williams, an only child, jumps up into the stands, and he is with his mother, and he's just crying. He's crying. And he was asked afterward, Reeta, why were you crying? And he said, really, I don't know. It was a lot of things going on there. And it's just led us to a very interesting place where you have some headlines that you see. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Peacock TV, you're consuming this on YouTube, you can see it. If you're listening on Sirius XM Channel 85, take my word for it. There's some positive headlines. Who say, hey, Caleb Williams, we should be able to cry. Men, in particular, should be able to cry. And we shouldn't judge those who are just happen to be crying in spaces that we don't always expect them to cry. And then you see a headline from Barstool. It says, we just have to say it, Caleb Williams crying. They think it's weird. They just think it was a weird story. And so, Reeta, before I pass it to you, I'll just say this. I feel like I need to say this. Reeta. Okay? Before we get into this conversation, that although I'm a professor, I'm not the type of professor who stands in front of the classroom and just lectures and then tell the students to be on their way. The sage on the stage, they call it in academia. I'm not the sage on the stage. What I like to do, I'm a semicircle kind of brother. I like to get people sitting around. I may sit at the head of the circle. I may sit off to the side. I might be sitting next to this junior over here and let somebody else lead the conversation. So I don't need to be lectured. So these people saying, how dare you talk about men and men not being able to cry? That's not the conversation. I believe in crying. I cry all the time. It keeps my head shaved. I cry every day. I try to. I believe in crying. I believe in men crying. That's not the conversation. So I don't need to be lectured on, do I believe men should cry and is this the 1950s? Nah, I cry. I cry when I'm happy. I cry when I'm sad. I cry just sometimes because I'm due. I really think this is a conversation, in my view, I think some of the narratives are a little off. It's just we don't know what to think of it. We don't know what to think of it, Reeta. I don't think it's people saying, well, some people might say, hey, men can't cry. We've seen Michael Jordan sobbing after he won a championship. We've seen people cry after losing a championship. It's not very often that we see in the middle of the season or 3 quarters through the season an athlete cry, a star quarterback cry after losing a game. And we don't have to know all the details. I think that's it. The conversation is kind of going in different places. But for me, I don't know about you, but for me, I think that's where it starts. Hey, what is going on here? Not you shouldn't cry. What do you think?
So you're asking what he's crying about as opposed to him
Well,
crying?
I don't know. Oh, you'll never,
Okay.
listen, you never know what anybody's crying about. I'm saying the conversation, the people lecturing me about, hey, men can cry. I know.
Right.
I'm a man.
Right.
I cry.
Yeah.
It's cool, right? Like what are we talking about? Yeah, I know men can cry. So I think the conversation, that's not really the intriguing point to me. The intriguing point is, why did it happen there? Why did it happen there after a game? It's like their 10th game of the year. It's not a bowl game. As far as I know, it's not there's no significant milestone that did or did not happen here. And it could be a totally private matter. I think it's drawing so much attention because there's not a box just to check. Like even if you think you think a brother is a caveman, and I'm gonna say women too. There's some women who probably look at it and say, "Wow, why is he doing that?" You might think this is a caveman or a cave woman who is not an evolved individual. Even that person has seen athletes cry and they get it. It registers for them. There's no dissonance. Okay, yeah. Athletes cry. They won a championship. They lost a championship. Won a bowl game. Lost a bowl game. Struck out to end the World Series. Made a huge turnover. Whatever it is, I think a lot of people, and I'll put myself in that category, a lot of people aren't really sure to make of this because it's not obvious. There's no obvious corresponding event that goes with the tears.
Yeah, I get that. A couple of things here. First and foremost, if you find that a man emoting is weird behavior, maybe you should take a deep dive into why you think that that's weird behavior. Maybe it's you and it's not him. It's first and foremost. Secondly, I think that there's a lot of discourse about what happened because people do not like Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is perceived as being cocky. Last year, he LOL'd a tweet that RG3 wrote about Max Duggan. And so people consider that to be tacky or classless. He was 20 years old last year, by the way. He's a 21-year-old. To me, still a kid, but young man nonetheless. There's the unconfirmed reports that been going around about him asking for NFL stock and whatever team that he chooses, or that he's going to sit back and, not go to the NFL if it's a team that he doesn't like. So I think, Holley, a lot of the discourse that we're seeing is tied into play that a lot of people do not like Caleb Williams. I want to be clear on that. But the what we saw on Saturday's game is, to me, a lot of things. There's a lot of frustration with him. He is putting up points. He is doing his job and then some, being the quarterback of USC. And unfortunately for him, he plays for a coach that does not care about defense. Didn't care about defense when they were at Oklahoma. Then they just took their business and went west, and he has the same old practices. They just fired the defensive coordinator, probably because he's tired of his quarterback being emotional and crying, because he knows that if he is not the person that's putting them in positions to win, they're not going to win any of these games. Essentially, when you watch USC games, Holley, I'm watching Caleb Williams play his ass off, and then I'm watching the defense just do cardio for 60 minutes. I mean, they're literally out there running around, not doing anything. And look, I don't like talking bad about college kids, because at the end of the day, I still feel like that they're college kids. But clearly Lincoln Riley does not care about the defensive side of the ball, which puts all of the pressure on Caleb Williams. He's probably upset about a lot of things. He was probably frustrated. He was probably upset because yet another game, that was a big game, by the way, was a game that they lost. There's a legacy that's tied to all of this, because there's a livelihood that's tied to this, which is why I have no problem with athletes emoting, because this is their job. Us as spectators can sit here and we can criticize and we can judge all day, but guess what? We have real jobs and we go to work. That is their job. That is, and sports is tied to legacy. Lots of times. And that also includes college players. Look how we still talk about guys like Tim Tebow, who did nothing in the NFL, but we consider him a great college player. Caleb Williams is a great college player who I have to assume wants to take it to the next level of the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
And he has to worry about his legacy of, well, USC just couldn't do it. Nah, I'm doing my part over here. If I'm Caleb Williams, that's what I'm saying privately, obviously, not publicly. But I just think that his emotions, it just got the best of him. He is tired of losing football games because his defense can't stop a nosebleed. I would be fed up too.
Well,
Holley,
okay.
I get it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I get it to a degree. I get it to a degree because we're being real here. That's what we are. If those of you new to Brother from Another, we do it. That's what we do. We just take on. We embrace uncomfortable topics happily. It's built into who we are. It's just what we do. So we're always real too. Always keeping it a buck on Brother from Another. Love this show. Love everybody who's on it. Everybody who produces it. Just love it. I'm just full of them. I'm in my feelings today, Reeta. I'm in my feelings. Okay. All right. So he's gonna be, unless something crazy happens. Unless something crazy happens and a crazy general manager takes over the team with the number 1 pick, he's going to be the top pick in the draft. And let's say there's a team that finishes number 1 or finishes with the worst record in the league. It doesn't need a quarterback. Let's say Carolina finishes with, that's a bad example because they don't have a pick. But let's say somebody finishes with the worst record and they don't, quote unquote, need a quarterback. They'll trade out of the spot to somebody who will take Caleb Williams. That's going to happen. So he's going to be a franchise quarterback for one of these teams in 2024. We're going to be talking about him. How did Caleb Williams look yesterday as the Patriots barely got by the Dolphins? Patriots quarterback Caleb Williams. Okay. You mean to tell me, I want to be clear on this. You mean to tell me that if Caleb Williams, if they were to lose their 9th or 10th game of the year, the Patriots, with Caleb Williams, dropping their record to 4-6, and he leaps into the stands and he cries, that we're just supposed to look at that and say, hey, athletes emote. Like, are you?
I mean, I did. I did. I don't know why that's hard. Why do we consider athletes?
Come on. Reeta.
No. Come on, Reeta. He's a human being. He's a human being allowed to feel whatever he wants to feel in that moment. The only thing that I wish that he would not have done was cry in that moment, because now we have to have these conversations about when it is appropriate to emote. It's appropriate to emote whenever you see fit, but because people are uncomfortable with their emotions and don't know how to, now we have to sit here and pacify it because other people aren't in tune with how they feel. And that's the problem. The problem ain't Caleb Williams. The problem is everybody else who thinks it's weird because they don't know how to do it or have been taught not to do it. That's the problem.
Okay, all right. So I want to know, because I think that's painting with that brush is too broad. I think we're painting with a broad brush. So I want to give some parameters around it. Yesterday, I made a couple of mistakes on Brother from Another. I said a game was on Thursday, game was on Tuesday. Yesterday, I didn't really deliver it the way I wanted to. If I am to cry in the middle of this show because I am frustrated with myself, are you okay? You're okay with that? I can cry. I can cry during the show.
It is your prerogative.
I don't believe you. I don't believe it.
Holley, it is not for me to understand what you're going, because it might not be from that. What you're crying about might not come. That just might have been the icing on the cake, but it could have been a lot of variables that played into you having a break at that moment.
I could be going through.
And that's just what I'm saying. We do not know what these people go through. We have no idea what these people are going through. And sometimes it becomes overwhelming and you can't control when you have those moments. And so we have to be more understanding of, sometimes though, it's not for us to understand. You got your own problems to worry about. I know I do. So for me to worry about what Williams was going through at that moment is very insensitive to me, who deals with my own issues and tries to dictate to myself when it is to cry, when it is not to cry. But ultimately, I just think that that's a competitive spirit for him. To me, I look at what Caleb Williams did and said, look, I'm the ultimate competitor out here, man. Every week I give my all, and for some reason, it's not enough. We are not in the college football playoff. We've lost 3 games. I mean, you're going to get a bowl game, right? But it's going to be a good bowl game. Is it going to be the Cheez-It bowl game? I mean, and so for him, it's like, what else can I do? What more can I do to make us be the team that I believe that we can be? And really, it ain't on him, but he's putting it on him. He's putting that on his shoulders. And unfortunately, They just not good enough. Not on one side of the ball, anyway.
Yeah, okay. I'm just really, I'm conflicted about it, obviously. I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm conflicted about it because I told you where I stand on crying. I really am. Like, my wife will say to me, oh, look at you, looking for another excuse to cry. Look, you just waiting. You're just waiting for an opportunity, aren't you? Yes, I am. So I'm fully, I'm so comfortable in my skin when it comes to that. And I'd have to say.
So what makes this conflicted for you then?
I'm pretty proud of myself that I'm comfortable the way I've raised my boys.
Okay.
In particular. Yeah. No, I have never, ever said to them, and you have to read their memoir. Maybe they come up with an example in their memoir in 20 years that I said it, then that I'm lying right now. But I don't remember ever saying to them, hey, don't cry. Get up. Rub some dirt on it. I'm not that kind of, I've never been that kind of father. But
okay.
I also believe very strongly in the quarterback and leadership. So when he is leading his next franchise, yes, he's sending the message that it's okay for his teammates to cry in these moments, but I don't want that, if I'm being honest, I don't want my locker room doing that all the time after a game in November. Hey, fellas, I'm sorry. I know you're going through it. I know it's okay to cry, but what are we doing? What are we doing? Yeah. It's a conference game. If Lamar, you mean to tell me, and I've been to Baltimore many times, you mean to tell me, Reeta Hubbard, God is our witness, that Lamar Jackson, they lose to the Browns, who they beat by 25 points earlier this year. They lose to the Browns. They're 6-point favorites. Not that I'm betting on it, 6.5. They lose to the Browns. They're favored to beat the Browns, and they lose to the Browns by 10 because your D coordinator is not putting Lamar in a position to be successful, and he starts crying in the stands. I'm telling you, look, Reeta Hubbard might be good with it. I'm telling you, most of your listeners are gonna have something to say about it.
I don't even know why.
Am I right?
No, why did you? I don't even know why you brought up November. There's only 3 weeks left in college football season, so there's that. That's different. Okay.
Okay. 3 games.
At the end of college football season.
How about game 14
of the
How about game 14 of the NFL? Let's go apples to apples.
Here's the thing, though. He's 21 years old, though. You're asking me what do I expect out of Lamar Jackson? And look, if Lamar Jackson is upset about something, at least he cares. At least he cares. At the very least, him emoting shows me that he cares about winning. So no, I don't care. To be honest, I don't care about stuff like that, because ultimately, if you care about something enough and you're passionate enough about something and it bothers you that much, sometimes crying is what happens. I think y'all need to talk to somebody. Go talk to the lady, okay? I don't know if y'all, because there's clearly an issue here about what you consider is moments of when it is okay and moments when it is not okay. I am not going to tell somebody who is doing a job that they are not, and they feel like that they are not doing their job, that they are not in a position that they can't cry. I'm not going to do that, because I would not want someone to do that to me. And I think that that's the problem here. Is like, we consider these men manly men. Well, what does manly men mean? Does it mean that he can't cry because he's upset about essentially his Pac-12 championship going down the drain? Because he's probably not going to go to the Pac-12 championship. I mean, that was literally on the line, and he only has 3 games left. And you know it's not going to get better for USC. You know it's not going to get better. They've given up 40-plus points 5 out of 6 games in a row. What more can Caleb Williams do? I'd be crying too, because I'm tired. I'm MFing tired because nobody else wants to do their part, and I'm the one that gotta do everything.
See, I don't like that. At crying aside, but see, crying aside, okay, take crying out of it. I don't like that mentality.
What mentality?
If that's what he's if that's what he's thinking, I don't like that mentality. Like, hey, I'm doing it. It's a team sport, bruh. It's a team sport. And like, you're doing everything you can, and you're frustrated because it ain't working out. Well, hey, you ain't the only one frustrated either. We're all frustrated.
So he's not allowed to feel a type of way because he's maximizing. No. See how this is where you're wrong.
No, you can emote.
This is where you're wrong. Come on. Because when you have group projects, and as a person that has done this as a grown adult in college, everybody don't pull their weight and it affects your grade. You can do 110%, but if somebody's giving you 20%, they're going to bring you down. So that's not, so yes, it is a team, but if an individual like me is doing my part and I'm giving you all, I'm not supposed to feel some type of way that someone else is not doing their job in the group project? That ain't how that goes. Come on.
Hey, Reeta, group project. I love your example. I love your example of the group project. Now you're speaking my language. Thank you. So in the group project, Caleb Williams, he's going to get an A+ regardless. He's getting an A+ regardless because homeboy's going to be the #1 pick in the draft. He's already got money. He's like, you don't want to talk about college kids. He's a college kid with 6-figure deals, okay? Yeah. He's going to be all right. He's going to be all right. So if the frustration is you're making me look bad, yeah, I'm making you look bad, but it's not affecting your next level. Whereas some people on the O-line, some people on the defense, it might be affecting their next level because they may have gone from first rounders to second or third rounders. They may be going from fifth rounders to undrafted free agents in the group project. But the leader of the group, no matter what they do, if USC loses their last 3 games, Caleb Williams is going to be the #1 pick. I'm just saying, like, we can't make excuses. And this is beyond crying now. I'm not talking about crying now. Now I'm talking about leadership and being a part of a team dynamic. You cannot say, hey, he's only doing that because he wants to win. Because a lot of people want to win, but they still think of their actions, how their actions and how their thoughts affect other people in the group. So,
yeah,
I know you're frustrated.
I don't see it that way at all. I don't think he's looking individually.
I know you don't.
I think he wants his team to be great. I think he wants the team itself to be great. I think he wants them to level up, and they're just not doing it.
I love it.
They're not going to do it. Reeta, they're not built to do it.
Reeta, I'm telling you, we can keep having this conversation. This is so good. I'm learning from you. This is good. This is good. This is healthy. We're in our feelings. We're in our feelings. Brother from another. We're in our feelings.
Yes,
and you said maybe we need to go see somebody. Maybe I'll go see somebody. Maybe I will. You never know. Of course, we just couldn't let it go. We couldn't let it go. Dan Wetzel, outstanding columnist, and Wetzel, read his column on it, and he said, hey, look, if you feel the way you feel about Caleb Williams and crying, there's nothing that's going to change your mind. And this is like, we should put all this, Connor Rogers, we should put all this in a time capsule and, let the people, 50, 60 years from now, go into that time capsule to see what our conversations were about. And maybe they're much more evolved, or they say, oh, that was an argument? They spent 20 minutes talking about that on a show called Brother from Another. They talked about that. Whatever. I don't know. But I do want to know this. How do you feel about it? You heard the last 5 minutes of our conversation. How did you feel about Caleb Williams crying then? How do you feel about Caleb Williams crying now?
I think it was kind of a pinnacle of a frustrating season, right? And there's a lot of emotion in the sport. And if you know anything about Caleb Williams, there's a lot of emotions from him. He's a very hard-nosed player, a very intense player. I think people kind of had him mixed up with what they thought of him, whether it was the painted nails or the fact that I don't even know. Maybe that he got in the transfer portal. It feels like there's a negative light on stars that do that, as much as I think it's great for them. He followed his coach. He's had a lot of success. He's been viewed as a future #1 overall pick for as long as you really can be. And then when you see that side of him, I think people are always going to look to poke holes in you when you come into the season at the top, right? Not just a Heisman guy, not just a Heisman winner, but the fact that you are looked at as a surefire lock to be the #1 overall pick in the following draft before you even play your final college season. People will look to tear you down. That's generally how it goes in sports. And it doesn't, people sink beneath that all the way down to the college level that are still amateur sports, despite that these guys are making money now, well-deserved money. So It didn't bother me. I was actually surprised it turned into what it did. I guess I shouldn't have been, but I think it was an emotional moment for what's been a frustrating season that hasn't gone as he had planned. And it was with his family, which, once again, I'm sure these things happen behind the scenes all the time, but since it was in the stands and the cameras were on, it turned into this social media moment like all things do these days.
Do you think that Reeta and Connor want to get you both on this, and then we'll talk about something else? We'll go away from our Caleb Williams conversation. Do you think that this is something that will come up in his NFL interviews? I mean, the team's going to take him anyway. He's going to go first regardless. He could bomb the interviews. I think he'll go first. But do you think it's something that teams will bring up in a negative sense, or just intimating that there's some negativity with it, and that players, other NFL players, will look at this as something negative? Connor, then Reeta.
I don't, honestly. I think more so with Caleb Williams, what they'll look at, there's no questions about his character, right? How hard he works, how, intense of a player he is, how he takes the coaching. I never hear a peep about any of those things with Caleb Williams. The things that I hear about are just getting him to play in a little bit more rhythm and structure rather than the chaotic success that he has had. And once again, I mean, this is somebody that there's going to be holes poked in him because he's been at the top. But in terms of character, things like that throughout this process, no. That's, you look back to last year, you think of somebody that went through that part of the process, and justifiably so, especially when the police were involved. Jalen Carter, that's an example of somebody that you have to vet the background and make sure you're comfortable bringing him to the situation and that he's going to mature with your organization. But with Caleb Williams, I've never heard questions of maturity. I've heard he's just a really hard worker. I think, if anything, a lot of coaches will like the passion, to be honest with you. They look at some kids at the college level and they think that maybe college football isn't their number one or number two priority in life. And for Caleb Williams, I don't know how anybody can deny that at this point.
I'm with Connor. I mean, I feel like those tears were of passion because of the frustration. So if anything, he cares. He cares about winning. And if you're a GM, if you're a coach, you like that. And if you're planning on picking a guy, if Caleb Williams is available, then it doesn't matter to you anyway. So you're not going to ask that question because you don't care. You don't really care. If anything, you just care about, is he going to be able to adapt to the system? Is he going to work hard? Those are the things that I think that are more important than anything. But him crying, again, to me, just showed that, he was passionate about what he does and that what is going on with his team matters to him. And I think that's an important character flaw, if anything, not a bad one.
Well, listen, this is the last thing I'll say on it. I want to thank you both for freeing me on this topic, because I'm going to start crying a lot more often on this show. And that shit's going to get real fast, get real old real fast for y'all. Okay, I just want to let you know. Okay, that's going to get old, but that's okay.
Can I cry too? We can make the whole crying fest. I mean, we can do it.
You said it's okay, so I'm going to do it. And Connor, I think I'm going to see you in person. I'm going to see you in person next week. I'm going to be Caleb. You're going to be Caleb's mom. I'm crying on your shoulder.
I'll put the paper in front of your face, Michael, for sure. I promise.
A week from tomorrow, I'll be there. Okay, so just let
I got you.
Be ready for that. Anyway, you're gonna have my makeup. You're gonna have my makeup on your nice. Don't wear a white shirt.
I won't. I was gonna say I'm not wearing white. That's for sure.
Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget, you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.